writing, and I haven't been waiting for a response. I've actually been waiting for validation, you know? I've been waiting for somebody to say, you know, you've got great writing capability, what you've got to offer is brilliant, you matter, your story matters, your journey matters, these other women's stories who were within this book, their stories matter.
Drive. So what I started to do, I started to just like buy and sell domain names when the internet was like literally you had to plug it into your wall. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It's so easy because you're chasing this dream and this vision that you have, and to feel as though you need to be working all hours of the day. And yes, there are some days where you need to push yourself that little bit harder, but you really need, if you haven't got your health and your well-being, you haven't got any business.
Hello and welcome to another episode of She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur Stories, where I'm joined by phenomenal women at varying stages of their entrepreneurial career who want to share their journey, their successes, their challenges in order to inspire, empower, motivate and uplift you on your entrepreneurial journey. If you haven't already done so, as usual, make sure you click that subscribe button so that you're the first to know when I release a new video. Today, I'm really excited because I'm joined by someone who I've been trying to interview for quite some time, but diaries we've not been able to match up. But welcome, Saffron Jackson, the founder and the visionary behind Zuree Dolls. Hi, Saffron. Thank you for joining me today.
And thank you very much, Daniela, for having me as well. I've been looking forward to this interview for quite a while. We've had so many near misses, but anyway, finally we've made it.
So, obviously I know all about Zuree Dolls, but tell our audience about your business and also, more importantly, the inspiration for starting it, because I think that's really important.
Well, I created Zuree Dolls because I was inspired, by my daughter was the inspiration behind this journey. When I became pregnant, as young mothers, my first child, I always, tell myself that if I found out, I have a girl, I'm going to be having a girl, I would definitely be buying a black doll, because the doll that I want her to have first is a black doll, because I've never had one as a child. And I always think that that was a real big missed opportunity for my parents not to have given me a black doll, something that looks like me and so on. So I've always said to myself, especially living in England, a multicultural society, I know the importance of representation and identity and so on. And so I thought, one of the first toys I'm going to get her is a black doll. So of course, silly me went shopping, looking in Toys R Us, or other brands at the time on the high street across London. And to my surprise, I could not find not even one black doll. I was very disappointed. So the first day I went out, couldn't find any. I thought, okay, I'll go somewhere else and I'll have a look. And I'll, ask a few people around and so on. When I started questioning other mothers, they were telling me about the same difficulties that they've experienced as well. And so I realized that it was not a coincidence that I could not find a black doll. It was just something that was deliberate. And so I started talking to some of the managers on the shop floor, and I asked them about it. And a number of them said, well, they do sell it occasionally, especially during peak season, especially like Christmas. They'll have a line out and so on. But generally, if you need a black doll, sometimes they may have it online, but it's not something that they stock on a regular basis. Of course, I was disappointed about that. I felt bruised, we're talking about that was 2015. And I'm thinking, how can this be? This is a multicultural society. We live in London. I'm not talking about the north of England, or somewhere where, it's not very diverse. So, of course, I decided to do my own research. And after researching, I realized that there's a niche in the market for this toy. And so that's literally how I started the business. It was after that experience, I decided that I'm going to create my own. I'm going to ensure that my daughter and kids like her will have a doll that look like them, that represent them, and so on. And hence I created my first doll, which was the first talking Jamaican doll in the world. And of course, I created a talking Jamaican doll because, again, I realized that the brand Jamaica does sell. People do like brand Jamaica, and there were no other talking Jamaican dolls in the world. And I thought, this would be a great opportunity to create something like that, especially living in England, outside of Jamaica, for kids like my daughter, who are, second, third generation Jamaicans, who would love to see their culture and see their culture represented in the wider toy industry. And so that's literally how Zuree was created.
And they say really that the best business ideas come through you dealing with the pain yourself and trying to solve that pain. And this is it in action, really. So I suppose for you, that kind of journey wasn't something you set out to do. You just wanted to buy something and it wasn't there, and decided to do it yourself. Now, for me, and I specialize in working with service businesses, and all the businesses that I've had have been service-based businesses. I always find it fascinating when people say they couldn't find a product or they wanted to create a product and just did. Where do you start? Because if I thought I wanted to make a doll, I wouldn't even know for a second where I would start with that process.
Well, trust me, it was not an easy road at all, and it is still not an easy road. It is one of the most challenging things I've ever endured in my entire life. I look at my whole journey as like a roller coaster. So the start was never easy. I mean, first I had to look at the doll industry itself. I had to look at black dolls. I had to look at the manufacturers. I had to look at the marketing, the branding, and all these kind of things. And at this time, remember, bearing in mind, I was still pregnant with my daughter. The doll actually was launched like about a year after my daughter was born. So clearly, it took a whole lot out of me to do that. But the beauty is we have the internet nowadays. And of course, literally anything can be Googled now, and you can find the information that you need, and you just continue. So you find one thread, and one thread leads to another, and so on. And that's literally how I began. I've never, when I told people, this is 3 years on, and I've never visited China before, and that's where my dolls are manufactured. They're like, how do you do that? I've spoken to several major corporations and organizations, and they are just, they just cannot believe that I have created this brand without actually ever visited the country where it is actually produced. But that's technology these days. So I must say it was with the help of Google and talking to people and so on. My research, that part of it was very, very important and integral at that point.
Mm-hmm. And obviously you said the idea was birthed whilst you were pregnant. What were the people around you saying? Because I know that when I was pregnant, I was studying and people were like, you're supposed to be relaxing. And when my daughter was born, I'd started my MBA, and there were so many different negative voices saying you're supposed to be on maternity leave. Why can't you just relax? Did you have a similar response from the people around you?
I got exactly the same. And I got people saying black dolls, that will never work. Nobody will buy it. A Jamaican doll, yes, Jamaicans will, and after a while, people will have no interest in it, and the negative voice constantly. Where do you get time to do that? You need to focus on your child, and a business is gonna take so much out of you. And what about your teaching career? Because you can't do both. And it was constant in my head, negative vibes and so on. But I'm someone who, once I'm determined to do something, I'll do it. So I don't, regardless of who wants to say what, I really don't care. I have to do it. If it fails, it fails. That's me. That's how I look at life, what's the worst thing that can happen? That's what I always tell myself. You fell. So what? You start again. And that's how I've always lived my life. If I can remember when I told my mom and my grandmother that I was literally just going to leave my job in Jamaica, which I had only started for about 3 to 4 months after teacher training, that I'm leaving and I'm going to England. And they're like, you're crazy. No, you're not going to England. Why do you want to go to England? You have a job. You're not paying rent. You're not doing this. And they're giving me 1,000,001 reasons why I should not leave my job and go to England. And I thought, oh, well, that's your, that's your perspective, but that's not how I look at it. I want to go. I want to experience it for myself. So I'm going to pack in my job and I'm going to go. And it was just like that, regardless of what they said, regardless of everything that, the obstacles and whatever that they've been pointing out, I thought, no, I'm going to do this because this is what I want to do. And it's the same with Zuree, exactly the same way. I've been, lots of people have been very negative in the beginning, very, very negative. But I just ignore them because I knew what I wanted, and I knew that, if I tried and it didn't work, I am a teacher by profession. I can always fall back on my teaching, and and that's always how I look at it.
So you've already just explained two different things that you've done that have really demonstrated fearlessness. So starting the business whilst pregnant, but also leaving the comfort, the sunshine, the food of Jamaica to come to the cold and the greyness of England. For me, that really demonstrates an inner resolve and a fearlessness. Where do you think that developed from? Where did you get that? Was it something you were born with? Is there experiences in your childhood that really cemented that kind of fearlessness in you?
Well, I think I've always been fearless as a child. I remember my grandmother, because I grew up with my grandmother, and she would always say to me that you're so rebellious, but that's just how the Caribbean people look at it. They don't see you as being fearless or as being someone who's confident in whatever it is that you do. But I've always been like that from a child. I never really followed the crowd. I was always the kind of person who believed in myself, and anything that I set out to do, I would do it, regardless of what people may say. They used to think that I was being defiant as a child growing up. But now when I look back at it, I wasn't defiant. I was just being confident. I was just being fearless, as a child. And thank God I was like that, and I want my child right now to grow up exactly the same way. I want her to be fearless. I want her to go out there and do exactly what she wants to do. I fear absolutely nothing. I mean, right now as we sit here and I do this interview, when I told them that I was moving from the UK for a little while to live in the Middle East, they're like, you're crazy. No, you are crazy. Like, it took them, even when I got here, my family, especially in Jamaica, they're still thinking, oh my God, what next?
Yeah, here she goes again with this defiance. I can imagine.
What next? Yes. But I've just always been like that as a child. I'm not sure where it came from, where I developed that from, but it's just always been like that.
So you obviously started looking for the dolls. You decided you wanted to launch your own doll, and you launched your own doll within a year of your daughter being born. What were what would you say some of the key lessons you learned in that first year about business and also about yourself?
Well, one of the key things that I've learned about business was that business was extremely challenging. People see the glitz and the glamour, and literally they don't know the story. I've had so many setbacks during that year. It's unbelievable. I mean, even now when I think about it, I'm like, how did I even manage to make it this time, with all the setbacks and so on that I've had. One of the main things that I've learned as well, that you need to have a really good financial base when you're starting a business, because without that, you'll find that everything will literally just tumble over, literally just crash. And that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. Another thing is as well, you have to do your research. A lot of research is required. And of course, marketing and promotion and so on. Very, very important. Those are the things that I've seen over the years. I mean, I was very, very lucky, I must say, especially in my first year or so, because of the promotion that I got through, various PR agencies and so on, and the media and all of that. Because of course, Toya, being the first talking Jamaican doll, she actually garnered a lot of attention, from the media. So that helped me a whole lot, especially during my first year. I could not pay for the kind of promotion that I've had. I couldn't, So, this is something, that I've learned, especially after it kind of died down. I realized the importance of promotion, the continuous promotion and so on. So that first year, it was basically, my biggest issue was not having a strong financial base for my business. I realized that that was absolutely important. But as you know, it's not a business that I had literally set out to do. It was something that literally just came up. I was excited, wasn't even thinking along that line as much. I'm just looking at the short term, not necessarily the more long term goal. And I just went for it, you know?
No,
So,
I totally agree. And one of the things that in what I do as a business coach, I always say finance first. And obviously the way in which you set up your business, as you said, it was kind of more ad hoc and I'm just going to do it and learn as I go. But if somebody's listening or watching and is wanting to start a business, finance first, focus on building up first and foremost, a pot of money to support you if you need to be able to invest in your business or just to pay yourself whilst you're not being paid through the business. But also looking forward and how are you going to generate income? What kind of profit are you going to be able to make? Where are there going to be gaps in income? I think it's such an important thing that not a lot of people take as much notice of as they should.
yes,
you obviously,
absolutely.
you've been doing it for a few years now, so I assume that you kind of started to balance and pivot. How important has kind of self-development and self-learning been? Because one of the things I always say for kind of startups and early stage businesses, the importance of reading, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos to learn. How much time, because you was a new mom, right? So how much time was you able to focus on self-development and personal development in relation to business?
Well, the truth is, it was pretty difficult for me running the business the way, it did. It was very difficult for me to kind of watch these videos and read and all of that. I must say that was like a massive weakness on my part. And that is something that I would encourage young entrepreneurs to do, is to make sure you have like a mentor or try and find books and so on that can help you, and videos and all these kind of things. Because the truth is, I literally did not have the time. Because not only was I a new mom, I was also a single mom. And being a single mom and running the business at the same time, and especially in the beginning when everything just literally blew up, I was overwhelmed. I had to be up like literally all night because I had not just people in the UK and Europe dealing with at the time. I was dealing with the Americans as well, which is a different time zone. And so I felt like I was constantly 24 on a 24-hour shift. And of course, having a young baby, dealing with that as well. And you know what London is like as well, where that is concerned. You don't have that kind of support because majority of my family lives in Jamaica. And so it was extremely challenging, very, very challenging. I thank God for a few of my friends who literally made the time and effort to come and support me during that time. Otherwise, I don't know how else I would have managed. It was difficult, as I said, running an online business, traveling to the post office on a daily basis with, 30, 40 dolls, on a daily basis and that kind of thing. It was absolutely challenging. And of course, the weather sometimes was not very great. Honestly, I don't.
Traveling to the post office and it's raining on your head.
I know it was tough. It was tough. So I must say that I did not do as much research in that area as I should. And it was literally because of the circumstances, the situation that I found myself in. But other people who are planning and who are, working on their business, it's always important to learn from other people. Learn from. There's so many books and videos out there right now that can help people along the way. Find yourself a mentor. Absolutely important. Once they do that, I think they will be much better off. Because I think if I had done that, some of the mistakes that I had made along the way, I would not have done so, But, as they say in business, you have to fail sometime. You have to learn from your mistakes. And I think that's exactly what has been happening. It is still a learning process for me.
So you said, and also I know because I saw it, that when you first launched, you had a lot of media coverage, but then it started to die down and dwindle. How did was there a period of kind of sadness, disappointment that didn't continue? So for an example, several years ago when I was running my business, I remember winning some awards, getting some press coverage and feeling like, yes, like everything is going to be fine. And then I didn't know how to leverage that to really turn it into something productive. And then when everything started to die down, I was like, oh no, nobody's interested anymore. Did you go for a similar kind of feeling
I
of
did. I did. I did. I definitely did. I wish I'd actually leveraged it more. Because, like I said, everything was just like a bit overwhelming. I never set out to do this business, and then all of a sudden I've been getting calls like, oh, the BBC, Al Jazeera, and all these people, Yahoo, and whatever, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
um, ringing me, oh, can you come in for an interview? Can you do this? Can you do that? And it was just constant, like literally constant, plus a million and one of the other smaller stations and so on. And I just felt like I was being pulled from one corner to the other. And of course, I did not capitalize on it as much as I should. And that was definitely, I mean, later on, I really, really regretted that. Because of course, as I said, you know, that kind of interest is going to only last for so much long. You know what I mean? It's not going to last forever. But I wasn't thinking about that, because after a while, it definitely died down. And then I thought, oh my God, if I had just capitalized on that or done that when I had the opportunity, this could have been happening or whatever. So, yes, I definitely had regrets after a while.
Mhm. And I think that's a key lesson for people listening and watching. If you are, if you do end up receiving a lot of coverage and interest, or if you're planning to kind of launch a PR strategy, make sure that you have a plan for leveraging it. So if you are going to be featured on a radio station, on a television station, how can you maximize that to really get some longevity in terms of interest or even sales for your business? I think that's really, really quite key. So you've been really quite innovative in how you kind of launched new products. So I know that you've got the Johnny Bear doll, you've got the Monique doll. I know that you have the backpacks and all of the kind of merchandise. And even in the way that you've promoted it, so you have your brand ambassadors and you have pictures and videos with them. How did you come up with those ideas? Do you have like a process for developing new ideas, or is it just whatever pops into your head? How structured are you with
I must say that it just literally pops in my head. Like I just see opportunities and I think, okay, I'm going to try and capitalize on that. It is literally like that. So I came up with the Johnny because one of the reasons is many people have been saying, so what are you doing for the boys? You have Toya, we need something for the boys. And I'm thinking, I did my research on male dolls and I realized that it's not very good. It's not a very good seller. Yes, you'll find people that, who would buy it, but it's not a very, very good seller. So that's not something that I could have, gone into as a young entrepreneur. But when I look at the toy, like the teddy bears, I realize that people will definitely go out and they'll buy a teddy bear, and so on, whether it be a boy or a girl. So it's pretty unisex, for that. And for that reason, I went for the Johnny Bear. So, it's things like that. For example, I also came up with the idea of a mixed race doll because, again, many people were like, okay, Jamaicans are not just black, it's out of many one people and we have people all over the world, black kids, mixed race kids and so on. And so I came up with a mixed race doll as well. I wanted to do a mixed race doll from in the initial stages. But then, of course, I based it on Meghan Markle as well because, of course, she's pretty popular. And I know, of course, she is one of the first black people to be in the royal family. I mean, before there was, of course, the Queen Charlotte, but of course, many people do not know about her. But they will know and identify with Meghan Markle. So I thought that would be a good inspiration behind her as well. So I went for that. And of course, during the World Cup, the female World Cup, I was lucky enough to got a contract with the Reggae Girls Foundation, and that was pretty brilliant because then I literally just changed Toya's clothing to make it reflect the Reggae Girls in support of them, being that it's the first time Jamaica has ever qualified for the World Cup, so it is actually quite a poignant time in history as well. We've created history. And as a result, I decided to create a mascot to go with that because, of course, a mascot is normally associated with football teams or sports teams. And a mascot of Toya, which has been going very, very well, because since I've launched a mascot for the World Cup, I've had companies that have actually used it, for their promotions as well. So, and I have some great ideas with the mascots as well going forward. So, it's literally, I just look at opportunities and kind of capitalize on it. Like now I'm in the Middle East, something is coming to mind as well. So it's like wherever the opportunities are, and whenever I see an opportunity, I literally just jump at it. It may not always be successful, as I've seen with some of the products, but it's worth a try. It's worth a try and see how it goes.
And essentially, that's what an entrepreneur is, right? Somebody that sees opportunities and capitalizes on it. And although you're saying that the ideas or whatever pop in your head and there may not be a specific process for it, you're making decisions and rooting them in, I suppose, business savviness. So like what you said with the dolls for the boys, you can see that boys' dolls don't sell, so I'm not going to do that. But actually, teddy bears do, so let me do that. So even though it's not a specific process, it kind of is, because you're looking at market opportunity and what will work. I think that's so important. I think sometimes people just launch into businesses or launch new elements of their business without looking at the market opportunity. So, okay, I have a girl doll, so I'm just going to do a boy doll because that makes sense, without actually looking, well, is the boy doll going to even sell? So I think that's a valuable point that you've made. And obviously,
that's something that I've noticed.
You've mentioned that you have now moved to the Middle East. How has relocating impacted your business and how you're able to manage that?
Well, at the moment, it's not really an issue because I do have a fulfillment service that's center in the UK. So at the moment, my goods are still being distributed, and whatever sales come to me, they're redirected and things like that. So I still definitely have control over my business, but it actually takes me away a little bit from the whole day-to-day running, like being at events and so on, which is exactly what I needed. There are times in the business when it becomes overwhelming and you just think sometimes you just need to step out a bit, just step aside just for a little bit and get your head around everything, especially in light of how my business started. In fact, when I set out, I always intended for my business to be something that I did on the sideline alongside my teaching. It was supposed to be like that. But I remember just a little over a month after I launched, when I did that first interview with the Jamaican star. And after that, like everything just literally just blew up, like literally exploded. I'm thinking, what happened? Even now I'm looking back, I'm thinking, what really happened? I literally got home from Jamaica, went to Jamaica to visit my grandmother shortly after I launched, because I launched in November 2016, and went to Jamaica the ending of December to visit my grandmother because she wasn't very well. I did the interview in Jamaica, never really think much of it, to be honest, By the time I landed in the UK, literally, I got a phone call. You're on the front cover of the newspaper. And that was it. Then the calls just kept coming in and everything just changed. Like literally just changed my life, right there and then. So, it's just one of those things.
You make it work, right? How
yeah.
Obviously, the product you've developed, or the products you've developed, were inspired by your daughter. How much does your daughter understand, or how much is she involved in the business? I know, for example, I started my current coaching business when my daughter was younger, and now she's starting to understand. Oh, mommy's on a call with her client, or mommy's doing a YouTube video, and she loves it, and she'll sit down and, hi, my name is Daniela. Did your daughter understand, and is she involved in the business in any way?
She is actually. When I go to events, she will hand out flyers, and little things like that. And she sometimes will tell people that, oh, my mom makes this doll. Like the other day, she brought it to school and she was telling them about the doll. Her mom makes this doll. Of course, she doesn't really understand that it was inspired by her just yet.
Mhm.
But she understands that it's my product, and it's our product, and and the whole concept behind it is about self identity and knowing who she is from a very early age. And I think the dolls have really helped her with that, because right now, she's always proud to talk about her chocolate skin, just like her doll. And she's always telling people, oh, my doll is chocolate skin, just like me. And we have chocolate skin, and I have hair like my doll. And, that kind of thing that makes me really feel proud. Really, really feel proud, because I think she definitely understands it, because that has been driven in her head from a very young age. And hopefully she will grow with that same kind of mentality and develop on it, and understand that she's an individual and she should love herself just the way she is, regardless of where she is in the world, or who who she's around, and so on. So that is the primary focus of the doll, and I think she's definitely grasping it. She's learning that.
And
She is.
and how proud are you, and how proud are your family and friends of the kind of legacy that you're leaving? Obviously, you're still here, but you know what I mean, around the world. So obviously, my daughter has the Toya doll and she has the Johnny Bear doll, and she is very proud. If you ask her, where'd you come from? I'm from Jamaica, with a little Brummy accent. And when she says the number 3, she says the number 3 just like how the Johnny Bear says it. So she says 1, 2, 3. And so for me, seeing her interact with both of them, it's something that makes me feel very proud, and also very proud that somebody that I know is who created these products. And I think for Jamaicans around the world, I would like to say thank you for doing that for us and for our children. How proud are you?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually, I mean, even now, sometimes when I look at it, I'm still in awe. Like, I can't believe I've created this. Or sometime, you get these reminders, like people send you clips, video clips, some of them you've never even seen before. And you're thinking, oh my God, you did that, And when you hear people congratulate you for the work that you've done, and the constant reminders that I get emails and messages from people thanking me from right across the world. And that is really what inspires me most of the time. People from all over the world will send me emails up until today. They continue to send me and say, you don't know how much you've done for my daughter, and so on. And even now I start to think, I feel like Toya is a person. Like, people, I have to remind people sometimes, like, she's a doll, she's a toy, she is going to be destroyed at some point. She's not going to last forever. People are calling me 3 years on, oh my God, my Toya stopped talking, what am I going to do? In panic. And I'm thinking, she's a doll, she's not even meant to be lasting for 3 years, So it's great. And I must say, my friends, and I have a few, family and so on, they're really, really proud of what I've done. And they have demonstrated that in their actions as well, because I've had friends who've been there with me from the very beginning, straight up until now. They've seen my highs and my lows, and they've supported me along the way. I've had a cousin who's been really supportive as well. He has really helped me out a whole lot, and I'm so grateful. I'm really, really grateful for all the support that I've had from my friends and family. And if it weren't for them, I must say that I wouldn't be here right now. They've literally helped me out physically, financially, emotionally, along the way, a whole lot. And just grateful for them and the support that they've given.
So, taking it to the kind of opposite, I know personally that you've had some issues with people doing things that have not necessarily been supportive of the brand and of the business. And for me, being somebody I would say I'm quite sensitive. It's taken me many, many years to try not to take things personally in business, and not to take things on board, because it can really mess with what you're doing and how you're pushing forward. How have you dealt with that? Because I know that it's something that you had to endure throughout the business.
I must say, I am learning. Initially, it was very, very difficult to see, especially when you've seen your idea being replicated, and people pretending as if, they're like the original, originator of your idea and all of that. That is very, very disheartening, especially when you know the hardware that you've put into it and all of that, and the support and so on. And they're using your brand and your name, in order to propel their own businesses and so on. that part of the business, I still can't get used to it. It's very difficult. It's very, very, very difficult. So now what I try to do is to literally kind of ignore what is going on around me. I try to block some of those people, especially from social media, because I just don't want to see their products. I don't want to hear about them. I don't want to see what they're doing. The further they stay away from me, the better it is for me. So that is definitely one of my biggest challenges, and that is something that I probably need to learn how to deal with and cope with those kind of situations when they arise. It's pretty challenging for me, I must say. I find it hard to deal with.
Some of the kind of advice that I try to give and to people and to myself is, you've kind of said a part of it anyway, but to guard your gates. So as you said, if you know that there's people out there that are on social media and they're going to trigger you when you see their posts, then just block them. And also, for me, something that I started to do is I'd often get people come and say, oh, did you hear that so-and-so is doing so-and-so, kind of the same as you. I had to start telling people, if you're not telling me something that's going to uplift me, I don't want to hear it. And again, it's about guarding your gates, because sometimes people think that I don't know if, I'm assuming that they can't think that they're helping, but they feel like they need to be the one to inform you. But actually, if you're going to tell me this and it's going to throw me off my game for the rest of the day or even the week, depending on how significant it is, I just don't want to know.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you need to protect your emotions, because in business, you need to be operating at kind of maximum emotional control, and you don't need to waver in that. And then also, finally, I would say, looking at, and I think I said this to you before actually, but they say, what is it? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? So as frustrating as it is, try to remember that you must be onto a good thing for people who want to copy. Nobody's going to be copying or trying to infiltrate something that is rubbish. So see it as a compliment. So obviously, I can't say don't get angry, because I get angry. I haven't learned to not get angry, but try not to stay in that anger too long, and reframe it as, actually, clearly these people love what I'm doing, or they wouldn't.
I must say, over time, I've dealt with it much better. Initially, it really bugged me. It bothered me to the point where, I've had sleepless nights, However, now I've learned to deal with it much better, far better. Because like I said, I've learned coping to, I found myself different coping mechanisms, like blocking them or completely ignoring certain things that's happening around me, and just focus on my goal, what it is that I want to achieve and how I need to do that, regardless of whatever is happening out there, So that's what I have been doing recently. And I think it helps. It definitely helps.
And speaking of your goal, what is the vision for Zuree Dolls? Where do you see it?
Well, my vision for Zuree is literally to be worldwide. My aim is to have Zuree in countries right across the world. And so that is what that's what I'm working on right now. Finding the right investors to get the dolls out there. I need it, especially in Africa. I need to get my dolls in the African country. I need to get far more merchandise, because my aim is to make Zuree a name, a household name, just the same way we have Disney and Barbie and whatever else. We want to have the Zuree for kids of color, or kids of multicultural kids right across the world. That's the aim of it. So I want to expand the brand into different markets as well, and of course to have more dolls. I want to have a variety of dolls reflecting kids from different ethnic groups, ethnic backgrounds, and so on, because I don't think the issue is just among Black kids. There are other kids out there who want to see themselves in these dolls. And that's the whole aim of it. It's about empowering young girls, empowering kids on a whole, not just girls, because we do have boys who play with dolls as well. So it's about empowering these kids to ensure that they feel proud of who they are, so that they feel represented and feel loved. And that's the most important thing. And that's the aim behind Zuree anyway, because Zuree means beautiful in Swahili. And the whole aim of Zuree is to ensure that kids are out there who feel great about who they are, regardless of their skin tone or hair texture. That's the whole point.
I love that vision, and it's just, as you're saying it, my business mind has been tick, because there's so many countries in Africa that you could obviously sell a different doll for each country. There's any within the
Absolutely.
countries, there's the different tribes. So even I'm thinking of Nigeria, you can have a Yoruba doll, an
Exactly.
Igbo doll, a Hausa doll. Then when you think of South and Central America, there's India.
Yeah,
Like there's so many different markets. Like the potential, I think.
absolutely. Absolutely. And as you know, I have the intention to launch a Nigerian doll. She should have been launched before, but of course, in business, things don't always go as planned. So there's still plans for my Nigerian doll. I just think the timing perhaps wasn't right either, and so on. And sometimes you just have to go with that kind of flow as well. And but the aim, as you said, is to have Nigerian dolls, to have Ghanaian dolls, you know what I mean, and so on, South African, whatever it may be, representing themselves. So the speech as well as their dress attire should be a reflection of that culture and so on. Just the same way Toya is a great representation of Jamaica. That's how I want to see the other dolls representing the different regions across Africa as well. Because I think, it's too long. I mean, even now when I have friends who visit these countries and they go, because usually what they'll do, the first thing they'll do is send me a picture when they go into a shop and they still see all these white dolls on the shelves. They're thinking, this is where Zuree needs to be. I've been given so many pictures over the years of various shops and so on right across Africa. And so the aim is to launch the brand and to get out there as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, when I went to Jamaica a few years ago, I'm pretty sure I don't know if I sent the video, but I tagged in the video. I remember going into the supermarket and I was horrified because all of the dolls on the shelf were white dolls. And I'm like, but I'm in Jamaica. This is the most confusing thing I have ever seen. Because I just always, because obviously I'm of Jamaican heritage, but I was raised in the UK. I always just assumed this was a problem in the UK, not in the Caribbean or Africa. I was really just absolutely mortified. So,
and believe it or not, it's still an issue. Still an issue.
Part of, well, moving forward, I would assume something that would potentially be very beneficial for your brand is to look at kind of campaigns. Because I think even thinking about media and some of the stuff I've been watching on YouTube or that you see on, I'm trying to think, is it Fox? I can't remember, but me and my husband often watch the random like 60-minute videos that they do on some of the obscure news channels. I think this is such a big campaign that is needed. Like, why in all of these countries that are predominantly made up of people of color, why are all the shelves stacked with white dolls? This is something that really needs to be explored and discussed. And I suppose tying that into then the launches of the dolls in those respective countries would be a good
absolutely
stuff. Not that I'm trying to give you a coaching session.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about that. In fact, I have this idea of a campaign. I mentioned it slightly earlier about using my mascots. I have an idea. I just don't want to kind of disclose it, obviously, in the public right now. But I have something that I'm actually working on, which relates to the dolls getting out there more and so on, not just in the UK, but across Africa as well, and so on. Because I think it's important, especially in the days that we're living in. Look at what happened with the football the other day, with the racism across Europe and all of that. We have to start somewhere. We have to go on. And I think, I have an idea where that is concerned as to how I can actually integrate all of this that's going on and, utilize the dolls and the vision of Zuree in order to empower more kids, and not just Black kids, but to sensitize white kids as well about the need for inclusion, the need for them to be diverse and not being racist, and so on. So I think Zuree has a huge role ahead. And as I said, I just need to take a few months out and just kind of literally get my head back into gear and think about me, because self-love is very important as well. You have to take care of you and your body and your mind in order for you to be able to do whatever it is that you want to do. In order for you to achieve those goals, you have to take care of you first. And I think that is what I needed, because I think everything I just started just suddenly, and I never really got a break. I've been doing it just constantly over time, and I just thought, now is the time. I just need to step out for a little while, get my head back together, and then get at it again. And that's exactly what I intend to do.
And it's so important. And for those watching, if you haven't seen last week's episode with Francesca Blechner, who runs Holistic Body Life. Check that out. She speaks on the importance of taking out that time and self-care, and the importance of recognizing when your body is going into burnout. And there's so many entrepreneurs that would have ignored the signals that you were obviously receiving, and instead of taking that time out, just kept pushing through, and then can end up suffering with burnout, and then you can't move the business forward anyway because you're incapable.
Yeah.
So I commend you for taking that time. So last question, 3 pieces of advice that you would give to someone who was considering starting their own business, or who is in the early stages of running their own business.
Well, I think I've actually made reference to them throughout the interview. However, I think the first thing is your finance is absolutely important. Get your finance sorted, because I think that is one of the main reasons why so many businesses crash after a while. Because I could see myself, I could see that could have happened to me easily if I did not get support from family and friends and so on. Because to date, it's very different. I mean, I've not actually had any kind of funding. Because most of the banks and all of that, they tend to turn you down. Being a black business, focusing on black products, you're just not going to get that kind of support that you need from mainstream banks and so on. So find a way to get your finances up to, finances together. That's very important. Secondly, do your research. Research. I can't overemphasize that. Find out what's already on the market. Find out the cost. Do all these kind of things. The best manufacturers, whatever it may be. Do your research. And finally, one of the things I must say is to have a mentor or read. Find out about what other people are actually doing. Read as much as you possibly can, or watch these videos. There are so many videos, because I've been doing that a lot lately. In the initial stages, I just didn't get around to do it. But now, when I look back and I think I've watched some of these videos and seen and learned from other people, I realize some of the mistakes I've made, I would not have made them had I had, done that before. So finding yourself a mentor or reading and, learning from other people is absolutely key. So it will definitely be the 3 main things: finance, research, and of course, ensure that you have a mentor, or, try and learn from other people as much as you possibly can.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me today. If people want to find out more about Zuree or want to purchase a Zuree doll, what platforms are you on?
Well, actually, you can find me online at www.zuree.co.uk. So ZUREE.co.uk, and also at Zuree Dolls on Instagram, at Zuree Dolls on Twitter, or Zuree Limited, ZUREE Ltd on Facebook. So those are the platforms that I'm currently on at the moment. And you can find me also on LinkedIn, Saffron Jackson on LinkedIn. So, any one of those social media sites, you can always contact me there, and we will definitely be able to assist you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you guys for watching and for listening. As usual, please make sure you click that like button. Please make sure that you share it within your networks. And if you haven't already done so, make sure that you click that subscribe button so that you are alerted each time I release a new video. And if you're a female entrepreneur, you're sitting at home and you want to get involved, please drop me an email at daniela@she'sthebossinternational.com. I'll be back next Sunday at 8 o'clock with a new Women in Business story. Saffron, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to seeing Zuree take over the world.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me on this platform, and wishing you all the best with You're the Boss. Absolutely brilliant platform. Thank you very much.